Hello everyone, welcome to another technical video with Fluid Freeride. Today we're going to show you how to resolve the issue with the stuck headlight or stuck horn for your Mantis V2. So what we're going to focus on today is changing out the light module, which is the unit that connects both controllers as well as regulates all the light functions and all the triggering. The way you're going to want to start with this is removing all the deck screws all the way around. We've already done it for this video so we can lift it off a little bit quicker. And then you'll encounter the battery bay and controller bay. Now, here at the shop, we use a suction cup to remove the battery, and that helps quite a bit, but we don't expect you to have this at home. So I'm going to show you another method using duct tape. So, what you want to do is you want to lay out across. From there, what you'll do is you will stick down the legs of the cross to the battery, like so. Make sure they don't stick to the chassis of the scooter, just to the battery. We'll go ahead and bunch this up so you have something to pull on. You want to do this at the back of the battery and not at the front, because you actually have leverage to take it up and away. Generally, it's a little more stuck in the front. You'll put 2 pieces of reinforcing tape here and here, and then if all goes well, you can pull the battery just as easy as we do at the shop. Now we'll leave that because you can also use it to reinstall the battery safely. For what we're doing today, we're going to ask you to remove power from the scooter. So we're going to disconnect the 2 XT60 connectors, and go ahead and put the battery in a safe place that's not elevated, where it can't drop and there's nothing conductive around that can short it out. An additional safety precaution is you can actually go ahead and turn on the scooter temporarily to completely discharge the controllers. From here, we'll move the wiring out of the way and expose the light module. Okay, so we're going to begin removing the connections. I'll also give you a brief description of what each connection does. So this is the main display connector. You're going to be careful when you do this. It's going to be a little hard to remove them, but you definitely want to make sure you disengage this hook. A little easier said than done. Generally, you don't want to pull on the cables, but it can be a little unavoidable. But do focus on removing this from the situation so you can get it out. This is the connector for the secondary harness, which goes to the, if you want to show them, the horn, turn signals, light switch. So that's what the second one up here is. So same thing, we're going to remove that. Be careful not to force these too much, you can rip these connectors off. Then we have controller 1, controller 2. So this board also links the 2 controllers on this model. This is actually the output for the horn and the light. So once they get triggered on this board, that's the connector that sends the energy to them. This controls the lighting on the multifunction switch on the secondary harness. So when you engage the turn signals, the horn, or I'm sorry, not the horn. When you engage the headlight or the turn signals, this is what allows them to light up. Right here, this feeds a certain leg of power to the display. And then we have our lighting system here, which these are the side LED strips. Then we have our connections for the rear lights. And finally, we have our connection for the front button lights. So now we have our new part. We're going to redo all the connections. So we have our taillights, which we'll reconnect. Then we have our headlights, our front button headlights. Followed by our LED strips. The leg of power that goes to the display. Then we have the single red that powers the lights on the multifunction switch, which plugs into the red port. And we have the connections coming up for controller 1 and 2. Just excuse me as I clean up all this wiring and make sure it's seated properly. So one controller, and then second controller. Please do note the wires going to the controllers, if you do happen to mix this up, are thicker than the ones going to the display and the multifunction switch, just to avoid any issues. We have our display connector, which is a similar pinout to the secondary line connector, but this one, just note, is missing one terminal, or one terminal is not filled by a wire. That's on purpose too. Then we still have to add in our small plug for the headlight and horn. So this is headlight, that's the horn. And then finally, a thing of note, and it's going to be kind of difficult to get back in, but there is this grounding strap that does need to sit underneath one of the screw holes in the front. You'll have to be careful and kind of work that out. It'll be a bit hard to show on video, but do make sure that when you reinstall this on the board, it remains there. I'll show you shortly maybe my tip for how to do this better. From here, you just want to pull out your battery connections again. Make sure they're at the top, which they may be a little different from the factory. So that's okay. I like to have them as high as possible because they sit fairly high on the battery. Then we have our grounding strap out, and we will need to remake the connection for the charging port, which is what this small XT30 connector is. Finally, you want to make sure that you're not breaking or compressing anything, and we'll just temporarily kind of see how all the wires fit and make any assessments or any changes we need to from there. Okay, from here, we'll grab our battery again. And the way I like to do it is I like to nose in to the controller bay, make our charging port connector first, our charging port connection first, excuse me. Get it closer so we know where we have to feed the wires in. Put it underneath the board probably. Get closer. Make sure none of these wires run underneath the battery, as you can cut them. Don't be worried when we make this connection if there is a pop. What's happening is our controller system is completely discharged, and of course the battery is fully charged. So you have a high potential moving to a low potential. So there will be a pop. Nothing dangerous, and the connectors are designed to handle that. Now you want to gently massage all the aspects into there. And the reason I say to leave this assembly to lift the battery in and out is that just in case you make a mistake here, or you don't like the way it's looking, you always have the opportunity to remove it versus having to do that again. And replace the wires. You want to make sure that no delicate wires are above the line, and that there's no connection that's getting too damaged from where it's sitting. So we'll probably put this lower one above, this upper one right here. And you see, more or less, everything sits nice and flush in there. Now we have our grounding strap, and what I would suggest at home, and give me one moment, I'll grab a piece of tape, is you could also tape this in place underneath as you're reinstalling it. You just have to be careful while you're doing that. But you could do this, about so. Place it in there, and it's completely fine to leave the piece of tape in there. And of course you're going to want to remove this whole duct tape assembly, which just do it in one nice straight pull, and you shouldn't do any damage to the battery. Remember, we do have this fastener underneath, so don't stress the cable out too much. I like to yet again feed the tail in. Make sure that little grounding strap is not in peril in any way. And close it up. I would start with that screw. Make sure it drives all the way in. And then go ahead, tighten all the way around. And that's how you replace the display, lighting module, and controller board on the Mantis V2.